Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. So this is our webinar with our panel called A Collaborative Approach to Summer Nutrition. As you can see, the webinar is being recorded, and the recording, slide deck, and any other additional resources that we want to add will be shared with all registrants after the fact. So you'll be able to access all of these resources later. Okay, next slide, please. So my name is Cody Bloomfield, and I'm the Summer Nutrition Specialist at Hunger Solutions New York. Our organization focuses on maximizing participation in and support for the federal nutrition programs like SNAP, WIC, school meals, after school meals, and the summer nutrition programs. Next slide, please. I'm really grateful to be joined today by this really stellar panel, including Heather Cynical from the United Way of the Capital Region, Mike Bolger of Common Ground Health, Aaron Latanzio of Causewave Community Partners, and Liz Lucas of No Kid Hungry New York. And they're here today representing regional summer nutrition collaboratives from across New York State, and we'll be hearing from them shortly. Thank you all again for being here today. Next slide, please. So this webinar is definitely geared towards folks who have operated summer meals before. But that said, I'll offer a quick level set on the summer nutrition programs before we dive into the meat of our conversation today, which is talking with the panelists. And for those of you just getting started, though, we do have some introductory summer nutrition webinars planned for early next year, January and February, and I'll talk more about those later. So after a brief overview of the summer nutrition programs, the panelists will each provide a summary of their collaborative models before we get into the more interactive discussion. We really welcome questions, so as they come up, just put them in the chat and we'll do our best to get to them during the conversation. And then before wrapping up, I'll zoom out, present some key takeaways, and share information about those additional webinars I mentioned earlier. Next slide, please. And next slide. Awesome. So the Summer Food Service Program, also known as Summer Meals, provides meals and snacks for kids and teens during the summer months. I really like this graphic to the right of the slide. It gives a good visualization as to the structure of the program. So it's administered at the federal level by the United States Department of Agriculture, or USDA, and then at the state level by the New York State Education Department, or NYSED. Sponsors are responsible for fiscal and administrative duties, which includes meal preparation and acquisition, and then sites act as the actual locations for the meals to be distributed and eaten. So just to give a quick example of this, school districts are really great sponsors. They often function as such because they're familiar with providing meals and adhering to food safety protocol. And then a school district, the sponsor, might then partner with a community organization like a library who would act as the site and offer a safe and welcoming location for kids to eat. Next slide, please. So as most of you are aware, kids are required to eat together at most sites, and this is generally referred to as congregate meals. We might use that term throughout the presentation, so just wanted to familiarize you with it now. Eating on site, congregate meals. But then in 2023, the rural non-congregate flexibility became permanent, and this allows for grab and go or home delivered meals in eligible rural areas. To participate in this permanent flexibility, sponsors must first gain approval from NYSED. And on the right of this slide is a screenshot of USDA's rural designation mapper. And as you can see, a really large portion of New York State is considered rural. And these sites must be designated as rural on the map and then also be located where children don't have access to those congregate meals that we were talking about earlier. And Liz Lucas, who's one of our panelists, does really, really great work on this flexibility in New York State, and she'll be talking about it a little bit more later. Next slide, please. Okay, so summer EBT or summer electronic benefits transfer is a federal nutrition program that provides food benefits on EBT cards to eligible children. Benefits can be used to buy food at grocery stores, farmers markets, and then other authorized retailers. Having started in 2024, we now have 2 years of implementation under our belt in New York State. And we work really closely with the Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance, or OTDA, which is the summer EBT administering agency, to help connect more kids to this program. There are a few OTDA resources linked on this slide where you can learn more about it. And we will be talking about this throughout the presentation, but summer EBT is intended to work hand in hand with summer meals. It's not either or. So families who receive summer EBT benefits can also participate in summer meals and vice versa. Families that get summer meals can also get summer EBT benefits. And we just really want to let families know about all of the summertime nutrition supports that are available to them. So we emphasize the cross promotion of these two programs a lot. Next slide, please. And next one. Thank you. Okay, so Mike and Aaron, I'm going to pass it over to you for an overview of the Summer Meals Partnership of Rochester.
Awesome. Thanks, Cody. Uh, so I'll start and Mike can chime in where necessary. But thanks for everybody for joining us today. I'm going to talk about Summer Meals Partnership of Rochester. Um, our partnership, our collaboration started in 2013. It was actually the response to a local study done in 2012 to better understand the decline in summer meals participation and families' understanding and awareness of the program. And it was determined that we needed a community-wide effort to support the collaboration of summer meals and to promote it. So our partnership was founded and with the charge of increasing summer meals participation so that every child in the city of Rochester, so we're focused just on our city zip codes. There are surrounding counties, some that would be considered suburban, some that would be considered rural that have summer food service programs. But we, as a partnership, focus just on the city of Rochester. And our partnership is made up of uh, 12 or 15 organizations. Some of those are sponsors. We have three to four, depending on the year. We used to have maybe four, but three primary sponsors that produce the meals and distribute the meals. That's our City of Rochester Recreation Department, our school district, and we have a local food bank, food hunger focused organization, Food Link New York. That is the third sponsor. And but we also have members of sites that sit around our table that help bring that representation to the table, community advocacy groups, and funders as well around the table. Our partnership the whole time has been private funded, so we have a fund through our local community foundation that funds the partnership, and obviously the sponsors have their own budgets and things to account for meal production in addition to the reimbursement. But we're privately funded, and that funding covers Mike's organization, my organization's Causeway of Community Partners, and Mike can say more about Common Ground Health. And so it supports our work on convening this group, which has helped to break down silos and to bring the planning, the year-round planning, really for us, as I'm sure most, to a table where everyone's working together. Mike, did you have
Yeah,
anything you wanted to add?
sure. Yeah, thanks, Aaron.
Yeah.
So I work for an organization called Common Ground Health. We're a regional health planning organization. We utilize data, community engagement, and connecting with stakeholders. One of our big superpowers, I guess, is this convening. So the Summer Meals Partnership really fits well with our organization. And obviously what we're trying to do is increase the amount of meals served and make sure that kids get access to nutritious meals. So our city school district has tens of thousands of students enrolled, and we know that only a fraction of those are participating in summer meals. So we know there's more need out there. We saw it, during COVID when we were able to do non-congregate meals and things like that. So we're really proud of the partnership. For the work and intention that they bring to this space. Helping the sponsors and sites coordinate to make sure we're covering geography across the city and not leaving gaps in service. Looking at places where we can do our mobile pop-up sites, paying attention to where buildings and things are being renovated and sites are closing, and how can we leverage other partnership members to help fill those gaps. And then also, in addition to just like increasing access, increasing the experience, like the positive experience that families and kids have when they're interacting with summer meals. So in the past, the partnership has collaborated on training for sites and thinking about the quality of meals and the quality of meal service, so that it's not just food, but it's a positive experience and something that kids want to participate in and feel good about.
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks to you both. And then Kayla, if you could go to the next slide. There is a
Oh,
screenshot. Yeah, I took this screenshot because
yeah.
I think y'all's webpage is great. Could you just talk about that for a moment?
Yeah, so we knowing that obviously the Hunger Salute, there are statewide listings of sites, but we host just a city of Rochester focused website with the listing of all the sites, and we have a map that we just use Google Maps to create so that parents and families can go on and find the site nearest to them. So we have this map that I think we can be a little bit more reactive with changes, which is nice. So I might hear directly from a sponsor that a time changed or a location changed, and I can jump right in and edit the map right away and not have to wait for everything to catch up to that. So we pride ourselves on being as up to date as we can with that. We also have just a chat available that if anybody wants to ask questions, and that came in really handy during COVID. We just had it really serve it. It just sends an email, but feels a bit like a chat experience. And during COVID, it was really helpful because, as Mike alluded to, we were running a lot of non-congregate, alternative meal delivery sort of um, operations, and it was really helpful to figure out, okay, where are there people that can't get to a site that need a help and that need meals, and we would communicate with the sponsors and get those people or those households on kind of like on the route. So we keep this site up to date and promote summermealsrock.org, and we promote that as our like local list, and each sponsor tends to kind of list their own sites. So this is a compiled list of all the sponsors, City of Rochester sites.
Yeah, it creates a shared brand for parents and
Yep.
families to recognize. It's a sort of one-stop shop, and we also coordinate with 211. So, folks who are looking for food assistance get the full, menu of options available to them, and we're proud of that, and that coordination between the sponsors to realize that this is one community-wide effort, and that we're all in partnership on.
Thanks. Thanks to you both for that. Next slide, please. I'm gonna kick it to Heather.
Thanks, Cody. And thank you everyone again for joining today. I'm really excited to share out more info, like how we work together in the Capital Region in the Summer Meals Collaborative. Similar to Rochester, we too formed in 2013. It was United Way, the organization I work for, and the Regional Food Bank, Sycamore Collaborative, which was then known as the Schenectady Community Ministries, and Captain Community Health Human Services. And at the time, we were covering 5 counties of the capital region. And since then, we've expanded. We are now in 8 counties of the capital region with over 30 organizations represented in our collaborative. We have sponsor organizations. We're up to 7 or 8 now. But we also have a lot of community partners, so libraries and school districts and other CBOs or community-based organizations that work with youth. And we have some advocacy organizations such as Hunger Solutions and No Kid Hungry. SED is also part of our collaborative, which we're incredibly grateful for. And then of course, we have more like regional partners that are part of the collaborative as well, with museums and art galleries and art organizations, reading and literacy organizations. So we have a whole range of organizations that are part of this work. And really our organizing model, the how we do this is, similar to Rochester. So we do have private funding that supports the work of the collaborative, that supports, the functions of the collaborative beyond just serving the meal component of summer meals. And we really do, we've kind of transitioned from when we first formed together in 2013, from a group of organizations that really did want to coordinate around how are we providing meals to kids in the summer months. And we've really transitioned into this, collective impact model where we're really looking at how can we build a movement that will transform summer nourishment in our communities. So that's kind of how we see our work. We've set our vision for the greater capital region is to be the best place to be a kid in the summer. And we would argue, making New York State the best place to be a kid in the summer. And we do really see this as it's more than a meal for us. It's about creating this entire experience for kids, around summer meals and summer nourishment. So a lot of our partners will provide fun and engaging activities at sites. One of the ways in which we've done that is through, engaging partners that solely focus on activities for kids, so that the sponsors can really just focus on, providing those high quality meals to kids. We have been really fortunate in working with 2 universities in our area, Russell Sage College and Siena College. And over the past 4 summers, they've provided a lot of additional people power and thinking power into not whether or not, summer meals is working. There's been a lot of research and evaluation on that, but thinking about like how through our collective impact model is this impacting how this program is being delivered in our communities. How are kids' experiences? How are parents' experiences? What else could we possibly do that would make this even better for kids and families in our area, whether that's through the types of meals that we serve and the nutritional content of those meals, but also the experiences of that. And, this is led us in the collaborative to ponder some really big questions around, what would make the greater capital region the best place to be a kid in the summer, and how would we do that? And what kinds of partners do we need to call into this work with us? So I'm really excited that this summer, we were able to launch several initiatives that kind of helped us start answering some of those big questions and starting to put some of those high leverage activities into action in our community. One of the things that we're really excited and proud to launch was the Summer Meals Ambassador Program. And basically, this was a way for us to activate and engage community members that care deeply about nutrition, care deeply about making sure that kids have a great time in the summer and that they have access to meals, but they don't necessarily see themselves as, working in that space. Maybe, they don't have they're not working in an organization that focuses on summer meals, but they still care about this deeply. So how could we get them involved? This was also another way for us to activate parents and community members that kind of act as that like connector, and whether it's in their neighborhoods or in their cities or in their towns. This is a way for us to activate, the private sector as well, who, again, they care deeply, but they weren't sure like how to plug into this work. So through the Summer Meals Ambassador Program, we were able to kind of create this this opportunity for folks to help us get the word out about summer meals and help kind of change that narrative around what are summer meals and why should you participate in them. So one of the things we found through the ambassador program is that it really does, when you change who your messenger is, you really can change the narrative. So, if a parent is talking to another parent about this great program that they found for their kids, that they're there Monday through Friday and there's all these fun activities and they get lunch, that's a very different story than saying like, oh, here's this summer program that, it's being offered in our local park. So we're able to really change the narrative around how people think about this program and start building that excitement around participation. And we did that through our ambassador program. And the lady on the far left side of your screen is a Summer Meals ambassador, and she's wearing a t-shirt. So we wanted to create a way for folks to literally come up to you on the street, anywhere you are, and ask you about summer meals. We had a quick training video so that anyone who's interested in being an ambassador would kind of learn the basics of the program and learn how to point folks in the direction of their closest summer meal site and all the different resources in the community to help them find summer meal sites near them. And the second kind of larger initiative that we launched in the Capital Region this summer was our activity challenge. So something that we've been pondering for a long time in the collaborative, especially with the addition of the Rural Non-Congregate program, is how do we connect kids from all across the Capital Region together? Like one of the benefits of the congregate program is that kids are coming together. They're having a meal together, they're socializing, they're having fun together. But for kids in our rural communities that maybe they don't have that option if they're participating in RNC. So how can we bring all the kids together? Maybe not physically together, but connected throughout the Capital Region. And that's how we kind of the activity challenge was born this summer. And so we were inspired by the New York State Library Association's Color Your World literacy curriculum for the summer. And so basically we said, how can we expand that and really build upon that in our communities as well? So that's where we started the Color Your World activity challenge. And each week of summer, we had a different color of the rainbow. And we had a whole bunch of activities that kids could do either at summer meal sites with our partners or at home with their family or their friends. And we encourage them, with their parents' permission, to snap a photo and share that with us. And we kind of create this collage, this rainbow collage at the end of the summer. So I'm really excited to share some of the collages that we created with kids throughout the summer. So those were just some of our, collaborative activities that we launched together this summer, the activity challenge and the ambassador program. But those all came out of working groups. That was another kind of iteration that we have been working towards these last few summers of, the collaborative meetings. The monthly collaborative meetings are awesome. We really talk about like what are the things that need to happen right now, or what's going on in our community, what are some big challenges that we're all facing, and how can we work together and support each other in that work. But when we really wanted to get down to like some of the details, such as activities that are happening at sites, or focusing on just the rural non-congregate sponsors, we've found that the best way to do that was through working groups. And so we're able to have those separate meetings that we could dive deeply into those issues and then bring them back to the collaborative at the next monthly meeting to share out like, here's where we're going and what we're going to be doing next. So those are just some of the exciting things that we've been able to do. But again, focusing through this collective impact model has really helped us get to the point where we all don't have to do everything. There's always there's a collaborative member that is really good at something and they lean into that. And it allows us this time and space to really dream and to think about how can we become the best place to be a kid in the summer. And what are all the ways in which that could manifest? And it really helps us build out, who do we need to bring into this work? And it gives us kind of that space to do it because we don't all have to do everything.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you so much. These are beautiful murals. Appreciate you sharing. If we could go to the next slide, please. Awesome. I'm going to kick it to Liz.
Hello, everyone. I'm Liz Lucas, Senior Program Manager at No Kid Hungry New York. No Kid Hungry is a campaign of Share Our Strength, a national organization committed to ending childhood hunger and transforming systems so all children, families, and communities have what they need to thrive. And today I'm going to talk to you about our No Kid Hungry Western New York non-congregate working group. We're the baby on the call. We just started in January 2025. So this was our pilot year of working together and focusing on non-congregate summer meal service. So looking at grab and go options, looking at home delivered meal options. And we kept it really small this year. It was a true pilot and we kept it focused around Buffalo. As we were kind of exploring this option and doing debriefs with sponsors across the state, we kept hearing that folks wanted to connect together. They wanted to have peer-to-peer networking opportunities, learn from each other, and if possible, they wanted to connect in person. So we took a little look at where there was a concentration of non-congregate operators, and it turned out to be Western New York, which worked really well for me since I'm based in Buffalo. So that's where we started this work. It began in January 2025, and we ended up having about 12 sponsors from the area around Western New York. We kind of capped our geography to be within 90 miles, or, 90 minutes drive of Buffalo. And we're a little different from our other collaborators on this call, which were so amazing, and I'm learning so much to bring back to the working group on this call. But we were just really focused on operators. Our members are right now just SFSP sponsors. We had 12 of them. So they included schools, community-based organizations, and government agencies that were carrying out summer food programs. We had anyone from schools ranging to school nutrition teams, superintendents, school business officials, to CEOs and summer meal staffs from community organizations to staff of government agencies. So while we were focused on sponsors, we had some different perspectives from different sponsors on the call. We met monthly. We had one big signature event in March that we brought all our folks together, but otherwise we tried to be flexible. We had some virtual sessions, hybrid sessions, just trying to meet folks where they're at, especially during this busy time leading up to the summer and then the actual summer. So as my role as senior program manager at No Kid Hungry New York, I served as a facilitator and convener. This is a part of my day-to-day job responsibilities. I participate in coalitions, and often a lot of my work can be leading peer-to-peer learning and networking opportunities or leading working groups. So this was totally in my ballpark, and I was so excited to be able to launch this in January. And all of it comes together because it's a result of our organization's mission, vision, and core strategies. It's really in our name. Folks may be most familiar with our campaign, No Kid Hungry, but our organization name is Share Our Strength. Which really is exactly what we want folks to do. We believe everyone has a strength to share. We encourage folks to come together, to connect with each other, learn from each other, and share their strengths. Really similar to what Heather mentioned earlier. There's so much that we all have to share, and we all don't have to do everything. We have so many amazing partners to work together with. Share Our Strengths No Kid Hungry campaign and this working group is a mix of, that people power as well as some private funding. We are a nonprofit, so we're generously supported by donors, including strong corporate partners, foundations, and chefs across the state and country. And this partnership and this backing and support really also allows us to provide some granting opportunities, which allows, especially in this area of non-congregate meals, some startup funds to start and expand non-congregate operations for sponsors in the state and rural communities. And really, when I think about that why, it's bringing folks together, sharing their strengths, sharing their best practices, sharing tips, sharing posters or examples of the outreach communications that they used, example menus, and really also having a safe space to just troubleshoot problems. This is a relatively new program. This is only year 3 of non-congregate meals as a permanent flexibility. So it's young and there's a lot to learn and there's a lot of flexibility flexibility built into the program so it can look different in each community. So talking with peers, seeing what's worked in one area, and if it's adaptable to your own community has been really, really wonderful to see happening in our working group meetings. So I'm going to stop right there and kick it back to Cody.
Thanks so much, Liz. And this next slide shows a couple of the other sponsor groups that Liz was talking about. Perfect. And now we'll go to this panel discussion, which is really, like I said earlier, the meat of our presentation today. And we can come off of the screen share so we can just share freely, see each other's faces. Awesome. Thank you for that. So we heard from one model that focuses on summer meals within a city setting, one model that covers multiple counties, and then one model focusing specifically on the rural non-congregate aspect of summer meals. So we're really hoping that there's something here for everyone today. And as I mentioned earlier, we really welcome questions. Feel welcome to throw them in the chat or raise your hand so we can call on you. I will start with a couple of my own just to get us started here. Um, so let's go to Liz. I'm really curious, since 2025 was the first year piloting this working group, can you just elaborate like a little bit more on your why, please?
Thanks, Cody. That's a great question. While our No Kid Hungry Western New York working group has a really long title, we have a really narrow focus, and it really is, just as you mentioned, non-congregate summer meals. It is that relatively young program. I mentioned it's only year 3 of the model, and there's so much to learn about it in the past couple years. There's the rules and regulations that came from USDA and SED. And there's a lot of ways that operators could potentially implement this in their rural areas. So we wanted to have a safe space to dive through all of this and talk about some of those key decisions that programs have to walk through to really plan for and implement this new permanent model. So we talked a lot about and knew that folks wanted to know how should they set up their non-congregate summer meal site and their model. Could it be walk up? Drive through, grab and go, home delivery, delivery by bus, or a combination of these models. We know that there's that flexibility with non-congregate meals that it doesn't have to be a daily service. You can do it twice a week, 3 times a week, once a week. So we really wanted to have a regular meeting group to provide folks with opportunities to talk about what it takes to only do once a week distributions and how that needs to be rolled out and what key decisions need to be made and how is that communicated to families. We also know that non-congregate meals gives a little bit of flexibility on how to package those meals. You can continue to do daily meal service, daily grab and go, which is really successful in a lot of communities. But there are those flexibilities to do maybe a pickup just on Tuesday or Thursdays of the week, or a once a week Friday pickup. And there's flexibility to do single serve unitized meals or bulk meals, which are different meal styles, but take a lot of different planning and maybe potentially include some different meal items. So really, it was just a deep dive with those sponsors, looking in at this new program, exploring the flexibilities, and then taking a step back to see what would fit best in their own communities and work best for the kids and families in their area.
Thank you, Liz. And William had put a comment in the chat that I'll read for
Attention high
everyone.
school band members, you need to pick up your fruit or
Thanks, Heidi. So in rural counties, this is William's questions in the chat. In rural counties, access challenges often look like long distances and no public transit, while in cities, it's more about density, safe site access, and awareness. How do you design a summer meals model that is genuinely equitable across such different environments? And what are the data points you look at to tell you whether it's working? And I think Liz has, I'm going to kick it to her in a second to see if there's anything more she wants to add. I definitely think she's addressed some of this in her responses about like her why. And then I also just wanted to say quickly about like the data point piece that the amount of rural non-congregate meals being served is large. Meal service in general, the participation has jumped a lot since rural non-congregate has come onto the radar in a permanent way. So we're definitely seeing that this model is working for folks and it's increasing participation across the state. So I'll share that and then I'll kick it back to Liz to see if there's anything else you want to add.
Cody, I'm so glad that you brought that up as like the year is winding down and I'm thinking back on all of 2025. One of the highlights of the year is really the non-congregate meals that were served in New York. New York State more than doubled the meals of non-congregate meals served compared to the previous summer in 2025. So in 2025, we served more than 850,000 non-congregate meals, which is huge. I think the previous summer it was more around mid 300,000s, so it was a huge growth. In these rural areas where this specific option is a permanent option, it's really allowed us to address a lot of those different challenges. The lack of public transit, the difficulties that families may face getting to a site. We know that in some rural areas it may take one-way drive for an hour for a family previously to get to a congregate site. So really looked at some of those barriers, and honestly, those barriers have helped to inform how the operators have structured their programs. For some programs that have long drives for families, they're the ones who are using that once a week pickup. They know that families can't do that every day, let alone multiple times. So they're the ones that are doing that one Friday distribution. And I also have to say, I just have to shout out that like New York State is the largest summer meals program in the country. So I want to also just say that while there's always room to grow and we know there's gaps to fill, like we are huge. We are serving more meals than the rest of the country. And all of these partners are constantly looking at filling gaps, thinking about safe ways for kids to access meals, and just couldn't do it without operators and sponsors looking to their own communities, looking to the community partners that are part of so many of these collaboratives. And with the support of the state, SED has really been so helpful to so many operators and so many exploring these options to help to serve more than 19 million summer meals in the state, which is pretty incredible. So I know that was a sidebar, but I just had to give it a shout out. That's just where my mind is as we approach the end of 2025.
Awesome. Thanks, Liz. And there's more, rural non-congregate is a hot topic for good reason, and there are more questions in the chat about them, but I think they can be expanded beyond rural non-congregate to the rest of the summer meals program too. So I really invite all of our panelists to talk a little bit about libraries and their role in supporting summer meals, be they rural areas or not.
Yeah, I had some thoughts on that. Actually, um, we did a mobile meals study, I think back in 2015, to determine the feasibility of doing like a kind of more of a pop-up kind of mobile program. We would go to like parks or spots where there wasn't the infrastructure to serve meals, through what was already there. And libraries actually were one of the types of sites that leveraged this um, sort of structure because they didn't have either the space or the staff to be a fully functioning site, like the meals were just going to be dropped off. So one of our local sponsors, FoodLink, actually both RCSD, our city school district, and FoodLink at the time did pop-up sites, but FoodLink partnered with a lot of libraries and would basically bring meals in their own separate vehicle and would set up for a set period of time. They would bring tables, they would bring coolers, they would bring everything they needed to operate themselves. And so they would serve as we called it mobile, but it, really was just kind of like a pop-up sort of site. But that was a very helpful way of leveraging the library's draw, right? And knowing that there's usually need to have some kind of programming or something to draw kids and families in. That allowed the library to sort of serve that purpose and put the burden or the process of the meal service on actual sponsor staff. So that worked pretty well. I don't know if anybody else has any other
Yeah, I'll just expand a little bit on that too, because we found in our region, in the capital region, in the collaborative, we have libraries participating exactly as Erin mentioned. Their sites. We also have libraries acting as activity partners. And so whether they're running an activity at the site, at the library with the sponsor running the meal portion, we have that happening too. But we have, in some instances, librarians going, the community engagement librarians or the outreach librarians going out to sites that aren't at the library and running activities with kids, whether it's reading activities or arts and crafts or other really fun ways to engage kids. We have libraries participating in that way as well. And it really just depends on, the kind of that particular community that they are situated in or that they're a part of. To William's point earlier around like how, or his question earlier around like, how do you even pick your sites? How do you know? A lot of it is just, our sponsors are really deeply rooted in their communities and they have a sense of this is where there's a large number of kids, or this neighborhood park always has high traffic and it's a great place to run a summer meals program, and there's a library close by and they can come and run some great programs with kids as well. And then lastly, I'll just add that we also have libraries working as an RNC site. So they would be the host for parents to come and pick up multi-day meals for their kids twice a week. So we have libraries participating in all manners of ways in our collaborative. And I'll just end by saying libraries are awesome, and we're really excited that they're part of this work with us.
And I can add on to Heather's comments too and talk a little bit about some of those libraries that we saw as distributing rural non-congregate meals. And sometimes it is using exactly that same model that Erin mentioned, having that mobile meal model. We saw a lot of organizations deploy a van and just set up right outside the library. So it didn't go outside in the library, didn't take up space, but that mobile van would come for 30 minutes because it's that rural non-congregate grab and go model. Kids can come within that scheduled window, pick it up. It often works best, I'll be honest, for those daily distributions or those twice a week distributions. But really just serving meals out of a van with those coolers, or setting up a tent, just like many of those beautiful tents that SED provides, has really been helpful for a lot of programs to set up shop at libraries outside for a limited window. And similar to what Erin mentioned, and maybe in conjunction with activities like when reading programs are ending, that may be a great time for families to stop in and pick up those meals. I've also heard of some other communities and sponsors looking to fire halls, looking to baseball fields or basketball court, sorry, really exactly what Heather mentioned, where kids are congregating and setting up shop for a limited time of window, really spreading the word. Marketing and outreach is so important, and letting folks know that this is the model, this is the site, this is the time. But sometimes having that grab and go flexibility has really made it a lot easier for kids and families to get those meals where it's possible.
Thanks everyone for chiming in. Hunger Solutions New York has had a long-standing relationship with the New York Library Association, and we go to their conference every fall and partner with them regularly. And we just know that libraries are so much more than a place to rent books and DVDs. They offer and fill gaps in the communities, especially in these rural areas. And a lot of that is outreach. So if libraries can't, for whatever reason, serve as a meal site, they can always help with outreach about summer meals and the rest of the federal nutrition programs. Libraries are strong advocates around SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and WIC, the Special Supplementary Program for Women, Infants, and Children. So that's another role that libraries can take. And then, like Heather said, an additional role could be simply providing activities at a different site. So lots of roles to play there. It doesn't have to look the same in every community. Okay, I'm going to ask another question to Erin and Mike. Y'all have worked really hard to identify gaps in meal sites within the city of Rochester. You talked a little bit about that earlier, but can you just talk more about what that process looks like, especially of the identification piece of these gaps? Thank you.
Sure. So we have our map that we create each summer. Aaron does a lot of the heavy lifting, so big shout out to Aaron for putting that map together. And then after the summer is has wound down, we get the partnership together for a debrief, and really the conversation starts then. Oftentimes, folks who work for the city will be aware of some upcoming renovations at, one of the rec centers, or we know that, a community partner might be, closing down, or we haven't heard from somebody in a couple years. And so we start to take a closer look at, what's going on in each neighborhood. We also involve community members in our partnership. And so sometimes, things come to our attention through that avenue as well. So I think that's a really important part of this, and something that I would hope to share in a venue like this is that, it's not just about getting the sponsors together. I think that the ultimate goal is to create, that sort of two-way communication between the meal providers and the customers, right? So that we can have, continual improvement. So we'll look at the map, we'll look at where we know, buildings might be closing or programs might be shifting or shutting down, and really try to get ahead of it as much as possible. It can be difficult. We have a large school district, we have a lot of different sites, a lot of different types of sites, so we don't always know. But we try to plan ahead as best we can. And then as Aaron is putting together the list, we do have some elements of our system, our ecosystem of summer meal sites that are somewhat flexible. So FoodLink, our regional food bank, has their mobile meal sites where they go and do sort of a pop-up model. And there is a little bit of residual non-congregate service in our region. And FoodLink does that without any reimbursement from the summer meals program. Uh, you know, we've documented the success that we had with non-congregate meals here, and it was really tremendous, and a great tragedy, I'll just say, to see that end. And FoodLink was able to secure some, private funding, some philanthropy to support continued, albeit reduced, non-congregate service. So as we see those gaps evolve, even if it's like right up at, the beginning of summer, there is some flexibility within our system for things to shift around. And we also, hope to sometimes address gaps with communication, because sometimes it's just making sure that we're reaching out to community partners in those neighborhoods to help ensure that there's, like alternative sites are known, right? Like maybe it's, a few blocks over. Um, and I'm really itching. I know I'm not supposed to, or maybe I am. I'm really itching to just, revisit non-congregate meals for a moment. In Rochester, it was incredibly successful. We were serving tens of thousands of non-congregate meals. We know that we're an urban setting, and for folks outside of this space, it might not be very intuitive that there would be a need for this, right? Looking at a map, you might see a lot of summer meal sites, but when you live in the city, these streets aren't always passable, right? You're not necessarily going to take four little kids across a busy street or into another neighborhood if you don't own a personal vehicle. Some of those sites have limited hours. If you've got kids of different age ranges and they're in different programs and all sorts of things, right? There's all sorts of things that prevent people from accessing these meals. And what we saw was when there were grab and go meals or those ice cream truck models, they were incredibly successful. And so, I wanted to raise that point here, and draw attention to that.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. And I'll just like for folks on the call that aren't familiar necessarily with like the regulations, this is a federal regulation that we can offer meals that are non-congregate grab and go delivery in rural areas now. And then the ending or the cessation of what was available during COVID, where everyone could offer non-congregate meals, that has ended. So that just to make sure folks know that that isn't like a New York State decision. This is a federal regulation. And then we have, ooh, I just went off mute. We have like a minute or so, a minute and a half, if folks want to do like like a lightning round. Like I would like to leave you with this kind of sentiment. We can do that before we shift gears to key takeaways if you'd like to do that. And we can start with Aaron. I'm going to put you on the spot since you're off mute if you don't mind.
Well, one thing I was going to add to Mike's uh, conversation there about the non-congregate. I don't know if people are looking to do more of a delivery model in their communities, but one thing that was successful for us during COVID, and so I don't know how feasible it is now, but was a partnership with our local transit system. And so our local transit system had unused vehicles, smaller vehicles. It wasn't like they're big buses, but like a smaller van sort of things. And we partnered with them to do the delivery. And so they had 5 or 6 vehicles that were idle during COVID that they were able to repurpose for us. Now, I don't know that, you would have idle vehicles in your community, but if you're thinking about trying to do something but don't have the transportation infrastructures, to think out of the box on potential partnerships for what that could look like, without having to build, a fleet system yourself.
I love that. That's a great idea. Thank you.
Yep.
Maybe Mike will
Well,
just continue with the lightning round with you, and since you also represent the Rochester area.
Sure. So my task is just to say something. All right.
How you'd
Uh,
like, to leave folks today.
yeah. So I think what we've seen in Rochester is, especially with only congregate meals, it's really dependent upon some sort of programming and getting kids to congregate there. So we're about, meal delivery, we're about marketing, but we've also been really intentional about partnering with like out of school organizations and networks so that we can ensure that all these great programs and activities are aware of summer meals and know how easy it is to be a site. And then we encourage, them if it's possible to be an open site so anybody can come and not just folks who are signed up.
Thank you. Awesome. And Heather?
Yeah, I think I would just leave folks with, the we're all here today talking about like the different collaboration or collaborative or coalition models that we're a part of, and I hope that this is either piqued your interest or kind of got you thinking around like, would this work in my community, and if so, how would it work? Or maybe you're already down that road and you're really curious to kind of dive in deeper and kind of see how other models are working. So I think it's a really powerful way to think about this program and to like, one of our early questions in our collaborative was, how can we maximize these resources and increase kids' fun experiences at sites, right? And so that's kind of was our early organizing principle. And we've, as I mentioned earlier, we kind of transitioned into like, how can we just transform summer nourishment to kids and families in our community? And what would that look like? And it really has given us the space to have that conversation and to have difficult conversations in our collaborative. We have seen an increase in the number of meals served in rural communities, which is amazing. We're seeing a decrease in urban and suburban communities in congregant areas. And, we're kind of, some of the big questions we're asking is, what has changed in the context that is making it more difficult for families to participate in this way? As a collaborative, as a group of organizations that are, really focused in on this work of creating these experiences for kids and families, what can we do next summer and the summers after that? So, being able to like come together and have those those hard conversations and try to figure this out, with other organizations is I'm not saying it's easy, but it's easier to do than just doing it in your own organization and trying to figure this out all on your own.
Thanks, Heather. And then Liz, just a quick little wrap up.
Yeah, just to build on that, I would also just encourage folks, you can start small. Start with a small pilot. Take a step back and identify just a few folks within your community or region that you really just want to talk things through with. Like Heather said, have those difficult conversations, kind of use your collective people power and thought power to identify gaps or see what else is missing, what we can do. It takes a long time to build these things up, and I think what I'm hearing from both Heather Heather and Aaron and Mike's model is they've grown and transitioned and expanded each and every year to fit the needs of their community and what was going on. So just encourage folks, if it makes sense, to try it. Start it off, identify somebody out there, start that conversation and dialogue, and give it a whirl.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks again to our panelists today. Y'all have just done such a great job, and I'm so grateful for your time and energy today. So, just to zoom out a little bit, like I was talking about, there are some key takeaways that you can walk away with that hopefully make next steps feel like a little tangible. So, like everyone was saying, like Liz was just saying, these models started with simple goals in mind to address basics, like offering more cohesive outreach for summer meal sites in order to increase participation, which is key for keeping these programs sustainable. And so these models don't magically solve every problem, but they do help build capacity. They really help onboard new sites and sponsors without having to recreate the wheel, and they offer support and solidarity. So you can take small steps too, like identifying your partners. This may be fellow sponsors, existing or potential new sites, organizations that could bring activities to your sites, and or potential funders. And then you can work together to identify gaps and address the needs of your community. You are on the ground, so you're well positioned to do that. You all know your communities best. And definitely take the time to reflect. The step is so very important. And I see these collaborative models do this year round, year and year again. Consistent reflection allows you to reassess and adjust your goals. And as the panelists have mentioned on this call, the summer meal season is short, but planning happens year round. And now you can really see why. It's an iterative process that requires adjustments and refinements. And then lastly, celebrate your successes, the big ones and the small ones, also incredibly important to keep us going. Next slide, please. Thank you. And so just a little bit about our role before we wrap up. So at Hunger Solutions New York, we provide scaffolding for statewide outreach efforts through ready-made resources, such as the ones that you see here that cross-promote summer EBT and summer meals. We also have a network of SNAP application assisters who inform families about the summer nutrition programs. These are the Nutrition Outreach and Education Program Coordinators, or NOEP coordinators for short. And they can also table at summer meal sites or events, helping to spread the word about SNAP. So as you can see, we really emphasize cross-promotion of all the federal nutrition programs. And then since we work closely with NICED and OTDA, we can elevate best practices and or persistent challenges to the staff at these administering agencies. Next slide, please. Okay, I mentioned earlier that we have some really great webinars coming up. So these are the ones. I'll be hosting a Sponsoring Summer Meals webinar on Thursday, January 22nd at 10 a.m. And then Liz and I together will be partnering to offer Serving Rural Non-Congregate Meals on Wednesday, February 11th at 1 p.m. And both of these webinars will be really short and sweet, just around a half hour in length. So we hope you can join us. And then also, if you want to stay in the loop about additional webinars and timely updates, please consider joining our mailing list. Next slide, please. Awesome. So our panelists were very gracious and offered to share their contact information. Thank you so much again. We could have talked all day about the nuances of each of these collaborative models, but no one would have signed up for that day-long webinar. So please feel welcome to reach out to them if you have any specific questions about their models. Next slide. Cool. That wraps us up today. Thank you all so much for coming. We really appreciate your participation and support. And then just a really final big thank you to the panel for sharing their time and expertise today. Have a great day. Thank you.